Hey guys, I'm Nate, and today I'm going to talk to you about bending the indestructible Dwarvenite. As much as we love Dwarvenite, which is the material majority of our pieces are cast in, it does have one weakness, and that is it can bend or warp. This usually happens when it's exposed to intense pressure or heat, or both for a prolonged period of time. Sometimes it happens in shipping, sometimes it happens if you store your stuff not flat or in heat or whatnot. So no matter how it happens, we can use that same weakness on the Dwarvenite to get it back into shape. So we can apply some heat and some pressure and bend it back into shape. And I'll show you how to do that. So if you open a package and you have a piece that looks like this, something is warped or bent or crazy, you can send it right back to us and we'll ship you a replacement right away. However, if you don't want to wait for a replacement, or you're feeling industrious, or you store your stuff crazy and you come back to it and you find it bent, there's some really easy ways that you can fix it yourself. There's a couple of different methods and we're going to take a look at them right now. So the first method is hot water method. You can, if you're really brave, you can do it with boiling water and use tongs. In this case, I have water that's just hot enough for me to put my hands in without getting burned, and that should do the trick. So this piece, as you can see, is pretty warped, right? It's bent forward, it's not square. Anyway, so we're going to just drop this thing in, let it sit in there for a minute and soften up and see what happens. So this open arch wall, you can see, is pinched together, so we're going to try and warp that open so it's smoother for the arch inserts. So throw that in there too. So we're just going to let that sit in the water for about a minute to really get warm and soften up, and then we can start working our magic. So while these are sitting in here warming up, I went and I got a bucket of ice water over here from the fire and ice treatment. So this has been sitting there for a while, and I think it's pretty soft. Oh yeah, feel how soft and flexible that thing is now. So now you can see it's actually already springing back to its natural, where it should be. We're going to sort of help it along, kind of just shape it to, bend it to right where you want it to be. Hold that in place and then drop it in the ice. And we're going to hold it there for about 30 seconds in the ice water, and it should hold its shape. For the record, this ice water is cold. Go figure. This kind of effectively resets the Dwarvenite, and it will be locked into this new shape for eternity. Alright, look at that. Nice, square. Alright, for this one, oh, you can see the arch wall is already sort of springing back into shape. We can, why don't we put the insert in there that we want to use. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to put it in upside down, so the little flanges are on the outside that hold it in place, like that, and then I'll just put it right in the ice water. That should keep it spread apart as that cools off. That you can do that for basically any piece, from streets to walls to whatever you got. Takes an insert, nice and smooth. Look at that, good as new. So method one works for just about any piece except pieces that have electronics or metal inside them. So let's say you had an LED wall piece that the back was bent up, or an LED wall piece that was leaning too far forward, or a magnetic wall piece that arrived leaning too far forward. If you get these things wet, the metal will rust, the electronics can rust. It's bad news. You don't want to expose your electronics or your metal to water. So what you can do, put them in a Ziploc bag and do the same thing, as long as it's really well sealed. It's important to note that if you're doing this with your electronic pieces, don't do it with boiling water, because if they get too hot, there's glue inside that is holding either the electronics or the metal to the Dwarvenite. And we'll show you method 3 if you're worried about delicate electronics. Alright, so this has been in here for a minute. It should be soft and pliable. Oh yeah, look at it, nice and bendy. So same thing, I'm going to straighten this up to vertical, and then I'm going to put it into my cold ice water and hold it in place for about 30 to 60 seconds. There's I've seen some people on the forums have made like custom frames for their pieces using Legos or wood to have like a perfect 90-degree angle that they can strap the piece to. That's also something you can do. You can usually just eyeball it with your hands. Can you eyeball something with your hands? Apparently. Oh, let's see if that worked. Now we take that out of the corner, and boom, nice and vertical. And bone dry, except for my wet hands. Now I'm going to try it with this one, let's see what happens. Same thing, I'm going to bend it. Oh yeah, nice and soft. We're going to bend that down into place. See that backside, I just want to bend that, flatten that down a little bit. And drop it in, flatten it down.
I wish I could do this with my emotional trauma.
Just put it in hot cold water and make it like straighten out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's called Prozac, right? nice and flat and bone dry. So this is method 2. Now we're going to go to method 3, the dry method. Let's see what happens. So finally we have a third method, which is the hot air method. Maybe you don't have a pot that's big enough to fit one of your warped pieces in, or maybe you're a witch and you melt if you get put in water, or maybe you're afraid of water, I don't know. For whatever reason, if you don't want to use water, you can use hot air. So in this case we have a heat gun. You can also use a hair dryer. You could probably use like one of those space heaters. I don't know, anything that'll heat this thing up. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to use the heater and we're just going to apply heat nice and evenly to the piece. Let's flip it over, do the back. Water is definitely easier when you have a lot of area to cover like this, but I didn't have a pot big enough, so let's see if we can do it with heat, hot air. Yeah, I can feel it softening already. You'll be able to see it or feel it softening up. When you have big bends like this, you can overcorrect it. If you bend it a little past where you want it to be, it'll help when it springs back. It tends to spring more flatly in place. So for a big flat piece like this, in order to help get it flat, you can, if you want, you can drop a book on there and just leave it under a book for half an hour to get it nice and flat. If you need a book to use for flattening your pieces, we can recommend one for sale at dwarvenforge.com. Fine leather collector's edition. You can even read it while you're letting it flatten your pieces. Look at all these nice, ooh, original medieval builder pieces, character sheets. There's so much good stuff in here. So we'll leave that under the book. Let's approach one of these. So this is a magnetic wall, so it's got metal in there, so I didn't want to put it in water. So let's heat this thing up and bend it away. Alright, it feels nice and soft, so I'm just going to hold it like this. If you have a cool setting on your hair dryer, you can set it to cool and just blow on this thing and it'll help cool it down and set it in place. So this one I'm overcorrecting it just a little bit so that when I release it, it'll probably spring forward right to the vertical position, hopefully. This is one of those cases where that little custom 90-degree piece of plywood you could stick it to would help. Alright, I think that's, yeah, it's pretty straight. Look at that. And let's do one more for fun. Check this out. I gotta put got a plan. Okay. So if you want, you can use a piece like an elevation block, in this case, Aaron Thor mountain piece, and you can clamp it, or use a rubber band, clamp it in place. And then, if you have a book lying around, you could just pop it right on there. Let it sit. Save your hands to do something like peruse said book. Let's see if that did it. No, it's still bent. Does that look pretty good? Pretty good. And if you don't like it, you can always heat it up and bend it some more and get it to just the right spot. And finally, as a Lucky Strike Extra, let's look at the Sacrificial Pit from the Shrine of Sisul. So this is one of the coolest pieces from the Kickstarter because it has this cool little spring release hatch, right? So in theory, you put the mini up there, you press this little secret thing, and boom, they drop through. But what happens a lot of times is this. One or both of the doors doesn't open, and it's really annoying. Really easy fix you can do at home. So this part here is just like a half a millimeter too long, and it catches the door and stops them from dropping down. So really simple fix. Get yourself a hobby knife or a box cutter or whatever, some sort of sharp implement. Press this thing down to get the little spring-loaded peg out of the way, and then just ever so lightly just shave off the inside there. It doesn't really take much. Some paper thin slices, and you can focus on kind of the lower part of it. Also, while you're at it, sometimes there's a little tiny sprue spot at the top of these doors. Right there, you can just so lightly shave that off. There's a little tiny bump. Let's just see. Same with this one, so a little minuscule bump. You can just lightly feel it. All right, let's see if that did it. So then you pop these in, little side on one, big side on the other, little side over there, big side over there. All right, now theoretically when you press the button, these should work. Ba-ba! Look at that. All right, so ever so lightly, just shave off those little bits right over there, and you'll be sacrificing miniatures all day long. So there you have it, 3 ways that you can fix Dwarvenite at home. And remember, if you get a piece that's warped or broken or weird, just write us, we'll replace it for you, no problem. But now you also have the tools to fix all this stuff yourself right at home. All right, enjoy. See, I can fix that, I'm not worried.